As you may know, every week we take a deep dive into the boroughs, right? So with the people in charge.
Yeah, this morning we look at Manhattan.
That's right. Welcoming back Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine for one of his regular visits. So, Borough President, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dan and Hazel. Great to be here.
So let's talk about this, right? Because I want to begin with the topic of what we're seeing kind of play out on the streets. You know, you walk around, you can see so many different empty storefronts, especially on 9th Avenue. I was in Hell's Kitchen at my grandma's apartment the other day, and you just see all of these empty storefronts. What can be done about getting people back into these businesses with rents that they can actually afford?
Well, we've got vacancy on almost every street in the borough, and this really saps life from neighborhoods. It's a public safety issue, and we've got to get this going in the right direction. The rents have to come down. The bottom line is that landlords are charging rents that are unrealistic in this market, and the spaces are languishing vacant. We need to look probably at very aggressive measures, maybe even a vacancy tax. To force the question so that the rents come down. When they do, I'm confident entrepreneurs will step in and we can fill up these spaces.
What does that tax mean? Because help me understand. Some people said some landlords make money from them actually being vacant than having somebody who pays a cheap rent.
I've tried to pick this apart. I don't think that is actually true.
Okay.
I think it's just that for them to lower the rent, they feel like it would jeopardize their financing. Maybe their other tenants would also ask for rent reductions. So they're resistant, and they'd rather leave it vacant even for months and years on end. Once the rents come down, entrepreneurs will step in. We have to force that.
Can we talk about housing, too, how you want to permit housing in some of the retail space? What area specifically are you focusing on to make that happen?
Well, we have seen a pretty slow return to office work. We're now at above 50%, but there are buildings which just won't fill up. And that is also an opportunity.
Yeah.
Just like after 9/11, so much office space was converted to housing. We can do that in Midtown, where there are older buildings that are not as attractive to tenants, and that could be the source of thousands of units. There are also manufacturing areas in Manhattan, which may surprise people, but the zoning is so out of date that we do have neighborhoods where you're only allowed to do manufacturing. You cannot do housing, such as in the Garment District. And by allowing for residential conversions, you don't have to tear down buildings. You're just going to bring in new apartments, potentially thousands in the Garment District alone.
The bones are already there.
But you talked
Yes.
about some of these buildings will have to come down. I mean, you and I have talked about this on the political show, too, about turning some of these offices into affordable housing isn't feasible in a building like the one we're in. But in the Garment District, it's a bit different because they're old school buildings that maybe you could do it. It all depends on the layout.
Yes, those buildings are 100 years old for the most part, and so they have smaller floor plates.
Right.
These big office buildings like the one we're in, much more difficult to convert. Not impossible, but difficult, expensive.
Lengthy.
First, we're going to have to reduce all the bureaucratic obstacles, and there are many rules that wouldn't even permit this to be converted. Yes. Well, no, this is mostly in Albany. There's a fight, progress on that. But it's expensive, and especially if you want them to be converted with some affordable units, and we definitely do, you're going to need tax incentives. So this is a fight right now happening in Albany. We've got to do this right. We want affordability. We don't want them to sit empty.
You know what's really sad? I've lived in the city now in Manhattan for more than 20 years.
Yes.
And it's changed so much, just from looking at it. And Dan mentioned the storefronts, a lot of them vacant. And then you look at all the construction or these scaffoldings that have been up forever. What are you going to do about this? Because, I mean, speaking from someone that lives in this city, it's frustrating to see some of these scaffoldings still up.
Funny you should ask that, Hazel, because we're releasing a big plan this morning to rein this in. This is the classic example of a good idea that's gone amok. We now have over 4,000 of these, what they call sidewalk sheds, aka scaffolding. Just in Manhattan, 4,000. You could line it up, it would go from here to Montreal. So we're releasing a plan to make sure that the facade work is done much more quickly. These languish for months, even years. On average, they're up 240 days in Manhattan. Some 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's a blight on neighborhoods. We have a plan that will speed up the work so that they come down more quickly. We have some sticks in the plan that will fine building owners if they don't do the work. And we would even allow the city to go in and do the repair work itself and bill the landlord if all else fails.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they put up this scaffolding. I lived on 46th and 2nd, 3rd. And there was scaffolding from the moment I lived there, for the 3 years I lived there. Not 1 ounce of work was done until the day I was moving out. I saw people doing work. I was like, go figure. Anyway, so let's talk about the congestion pricing right now, because that is a hot topic for so many, right? And now there is actually a delay for the congestion pricing. And I'm not really surprised by the delay, but I want to get your thoughts overall on the fact that you're an advocate of this now being pushed back and kicked down the road.
We have 2 mounting crises in Manhattan and in the region. First, the congestion on the streets is just out of control. It is, at this point, sometimes you're moving at less than walking speed in crowded parts of Midtown when you're in a car or a bus. It's impeding emergency vehicles. Fire response is lengthening. Ambulance response is lengthening because of this. It's a drag on the economy, on the environment, and more. We have another parallel problem with our transit system, which is desperate for billions of investment for new trains, renovated stations, more elevators for access. And congestion pricing addresses both of these issues. It will reduce congestion in the Midtown core. That'll be a boost to the economy, and it'll get billions of dollars that we need to renovate stations.
We know this. But is it fair for somebody coming in from Long Island or New Jersey or up north to pay for those services when they don't necessarily live in those zones?
Well, we have tolls on bridges and on highways all over. That's how you pay for infrastructure in this country. We have a toll on the Garden State Parkway, on the Jersey Turnpike. That's how we pay. And we need to pay for a variety of services. Everyone benefits when we have better mass transit, even drivers, because they have less congestion. So this is a win for everybody. And the delays have only made all these problems worse. We need to have it done soon. There are questions about people who live in the zone having exemptions, and the law does allow for low-income people, even middle-income people inside the zone, if you live here, to get a rebate for what you pay. So with modest exceptions, we can do this in a way that's fair, but we have to do it for the sake of transportation in our region.
Just real quick before we let you go, because we've run out of time, Grand Central Madison is supposed to be this great thing. A lot of issues. What's your take on the new station and the problem?
It is a great thing. First, it's an amazing station. You got to go. It's a huge win for Manhattan. Hundreds of more trains coming in here every day. It'll allow for reverse commutes. There have been hiccups the first week. And I've heard that over the weekend the governor announced that they're going to add many more trains during the rush hour peaks to fix some of the challenges. I'm confident they'll work that out. This is really a game change for access to Manhattan. It's a win for people all over the region. If you haven't seen Grand Central Madison, you got to check it out. It's gorgeous.
It is beautiful. All right. Borough President Mark Levine, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Great to be here.